Is it time? Oh, farts, I think it's time. You probably know what this book is without really knowing what it is. Yes, Behind the Bell is Dustin Diamond's disastrous attempt at a tell-all book. The thing is pockmarked with formatting and grammatical errors, but it also widened the chasm between himself and his former co-stars, which likely got him blacklisted from ever appearing on the reimagining. The book was marketed as the gospel truth.
In a book that you write that's a tell-all, before it ever goes to print, they verify everything. They have stuff that's verified, and they have stuff that, they have a libel lawyer that reads through everything, what can and can't be said.
Yeah, it rubbed a lot of people the wrong way.
The Dustin Diamond thing is just so silly. Like it's just so I don't know. It's so negative, and it always bums me out because he's like.
It is.
I know
negative.
everybody
that I
from
must
the
say.
show.
It's like everything that I've heard about his book is that it is negative, and I don't remember those things.
Now, to Dustin's credit, there was also some later backpedaling.
You didn't write the book.
No, a ghostwriter wrote it. They weren't going to trust a first-time author with 80,000 words by themselves. I was supposed to talk to a ghostwriter like 20 times for I think 2 to 4 hours a piece or something like that. And I talked to the guy one time for an hour and a half. He said, well, let me call you in the next week. And then I got sent a draft, what I thought was a first draft of the book, and it was the finished product.
So it's both 100% true, but also maybe very, very untrue? What? Behind the Bell was put out by Transit Publishing.
They were a French-Canadian publisher, but they folded the company, and then no one was answering phones from them.
As Dustin tells it, Transit shuttered before he could cancel the release, but Behind the Bell was published in 2009, and the last Transit Publishing book was released in 2011. Ooh, one of their books was Looking Good Naked? How can I be down? So let's get into the content. The book was broken up into 4 parts, so this video will cover the beginning, which includes a chapter on Good Morning Miss Bliss and a general synopsis of his Saved by the Bell co-stars. I loved the idea of starting with Good Morning Miss Bliss. We don't get a lot of behind-the-scenes info from that era. But this is a misdirection. After saying he auditioned for the part of Screech 6 times, he meanders into a story of getting to hang out in VP of Children's Programming, Linda Mancuso's office, and watching cartoons. Dustin then backs up and relates how he grew up in San Juan, California, and not jaded by the LA scene. His parents shoveled their lives to help him become an actor, and no mention of other siblings. He then notes early commercial appearances for Burger King, Alpha Bits, and Fruity Pebbles. I couldn't find these, but here he is in a Cheese Whiz commercial, no lines, and then as a genius in an A&W commercial.
Compressor booster drops ice cream into this channel where it is deposited into these awaiting mugs that are then filled with rich, creamy A&W.
Why does it have to make that sound? Dustin then talks about loving video games. But here's a fun little segment where he gets interviewed by Video Power.
Screech, right. What is the show about?
It's about a half an hour.
So, do you like video games?
Yeah, Phantasy Star 1 and 2 and Metroid and Zelda, things like that.
If your life were a video game, what would it be called?
Probably Crazy.
If you're thinking, now hold up, I thought this section was about Good Morning Miss Bliss. Well, you're in luck because Dustin next talks about his appearances in the Wonder Years. I covered these in an earlier deep Screech dive. 2 tidbits. He got paid extra to get pantsed, and he gives us his honest take on Fred Savage.
He's a real douche.
Then we circle back to Miss Bliss. Dustin says of Hayley Mills, there is absolutely nothing I could write about that special lady that would approach the praise she deserves. What a beautiful woman. He then posits that Hayley likely wouldn't have fit the new model for the show in Saved by the Bell, then quickly moves on to mention set visits from Gentleman Jerry, the Great White Hope Cooney, and A. Martinez, anecdotes that go absolutely nowhere. Then we learn that Peter Engel wanted the show to be called When the Bell Rings, Dustin liked hanging out in Brandon Tartikoff's office, and how Brandon Tartikoff's replacement in 1991 was a lot like GE light bulbs. Yup, that's the Good Morning Miss Bliss section of the book. 0 mentions of Heather Hopper, Max Badamo, Joan Ryan, or T.K. Carter. But he does say that he lost out on being the voice of Flounder in Disney's The Little Mermaid. The next section is Dustin's public service announcement. He wants to give the reader his honest take on each person involved with the show so that we know how to interpret the stories that come later. First off is Peter Engel, whom Dustin calls Saint Peter. Dustin seems to relish in the fact that Peter used to be a party animal who then turned Christian. It comes off as if Dustin doesn't believe that people can change. Now, I will say that Dustin pins a lot of the Christian stuff on Peter's wife, Connie. She tells a story of how God revealed to her that Peter would helm a kids show for Brandon Tartikoff. So, according to Christian book author Connie Engel, Saved by the Bell is literally a gift from God to all of us. And then Dustin tells us she was a MILF and Peter and Connie slept in separate beds, Ozzie and Harriet style. Really good stuff for us to know. He next turns to Mark-Paul Gosselaar, the golden child. Apparently, Dustin already had the role of Screech, and casting for the Zach character was down to 2 boys, Mark-Paul and some black-haired kid. Dustin offered to read lines with both, but only Mark-Paul took up the offer. Dustin claims their early chemistry got Mark-Paul the role. But, alas, Mark-Paul got too cool, and everyone kissed his butt and let him get away with everything. Dustin says that Mark-Paul's influence was so vast that Tiffani decided to hyphenate her name to Tiffany Amber, and Lark began claiming that she was also Dutch. Dustin notes that Voorhies is a stage name and that Lark's real last name is Holloway. There is a comment how each star brought a little of themselves to the show. Mario played drums and wrestled, Elizabeth danced, but Mark-Paul had nothing. He was a bland boy. But we know that's not true. Mark-Paul loved racing and doing stunts. One thing Dustin was very proud of was Screech got more fan mail than Zach. His thoughts on Tiffani should come as no surprise. She was really sweet and humble. But then she turned into the girl that knows she's hot and became a total slut and started banging everyone except Dustin. In alleged fact, Eddie Garcia, Tiffany's real-life boyfriend and nicest guy on the planet, caught her and Mario doing stuff in Mario's dressing room. So she and Eddie broke up. But then Dustin takes it one step further. He basically calls her a time bomb, that she has FP because her mom was a big woman. This is why I say that Tiffani should have been a much nicer person than she was. She had no business being so mean because she knew that, deep inside her DNA, there was a gathering storm. I always thought that, years later, as soon as she found her true Prince Charming and said I do, it'd be like pulling the ripcord on a life raft. Jeez. Now, if you're like me, all this negativity isn't very fun. I'm sorry. I'd love to stop now, but there is more to cover. Just know that I feel the need to wash my hands every time I touch this book. Mario's segment starts out nice as we get mention of a cute little milk advertisement.
Hey, Mr. Moo, what do you say?
Fresh moo juice makes my day.
I hate the phrase moo juice. Here's another early commercial he was in.
But don't let the dimples deceive you. Mario Lopez is a bully and had muscles and probably had sex with Kathy Ireland, Bridget Wilson, and Denise Richards.
At least that's what Dustin thinks happened.
I know, I started that rumor.
He also thinks certain allegations went away thanks to an NBC payout. As to Elizabeth, Dustin notes that she is every bit of Jessie as you could wonder. She was a driving force for the more serious topics in the show. Then things get weird. Apparently all 3 guys were bragging to Elizabeth about how big their weenies were. They joked that they would take pictures and prove their manliness to her. Dustin says he was the only one to follow through, and Elizabeth became witness to his, how did he put it? Angry flesh baton? Really, dude, you were like 15 when the show ended. Staying weird, Dustin then notes that Elizabeth went off to make Showgirls, which he wanted noted for the record, sucked. When she came back, she was all Hollywood and uppity and more comfortable with her body and wouldn't renew her contract, and Showgirls is the reason we got Tori. Except, Showgirls didn't start filming until Saved by the Bell ended, so what the F is he talking about? Maybe he recalls her coming back for the Wedding in Las Vegas movie? Dustin then takes a moment to focus on himself and how he always knew the others were idiots. Like how they thought the lyric to the MC Hammer song was Can't Help It, or that the scariest part of Freddy Krueger was his sweater. He does show some grace by hoping they were all just trolling him. He also notes one lovely extra was mean to him, and so he peed in her purse. Oh, I hope it wasn't new best girl Claudia. Dustin seems to have a soft spot for Lark as he holds back the expected vitriol. With her background as a Jehovah's Witness, he says Lark was just too quiet. In fact, she could possibly be in the room with you right now while you're reading this book, and you wouldn't even know it. You may recall from the Deep Lark dive that she seemed to have a mental breakdown after her relationship ended with Martin Lawrence. Dustin heavily infers that Martin Lawrence should get all the blame. Another chronal anomaly to note is a comment he makes on a future episode where Zach and Lisa hook up, because Dustin recalls that they couldn't separate the story from their lives and they started going out. Nope, Mark, Paul, and Lark famously dated in the earlier seasons, not the last season. Likely due to their prolonged working together, Dustin has decent things to say about Dennis Haskins. He's a nice guy with encyclopedic knowledge about every small town, and he royally sucks with the ladies. Ed Alonzo is the last target. Apparently the dude had the hottest wives. Dustin stresses the plurality of Ed's wives and their hotness. Oh, and Ed was probably doing the gay with Neil Patrick Harris. So, that's part 1. I'm excited for part 2, as many people say it's the most insightful part of the book. I've got my fingers crossed.